in Japan between the years of 2001 to 2007, you might be familiar with Sega's Sonic Cafe, a phone service that allowed you to access a number of Sonic titles from the comfort of your cell phone. As you might expect, playing anything on a T-Mobile flip phone probably isn't that fun. I can actually vouch a little bit for that, because I had this Spyro game on mine, and while it could have been a lot worse, just try playing a platformer with buttons made for baby ants, I dare you. But that brings us to today's focus. Sonic Jump released in 2005 on Sega Cafe, and 2007 everywhere else under the Sega Mobile brand. To be honest, we got ripped off over here, because Sega Mobile only had like 5 games over the course of 4 years, whereas Sonic Cafe got 37 over 7 years. We may never know the joys found within games like Shadow Shoot, Amy's American Page 1, or Tails Flying Get. Or actually, maybe we will, since you can still emulate all these puppies in glorious 240p, a handful of frames per second. Only the lowest of definitions will do this justice. Back on topic, sorry. There's a lot of history associated with this thing, and it's honestly pretty fun. So Sonic Jump 2005, or Java Jump as I'm gonna keep calling it because you play it on Java devices, if you've played the 2012 version, it won't look all that different, gameplay-wise at least. To those with functioning eyeballs, however, you'll notice a striking visual difference. My eyeballs, in particular, jumped for joy when I found out the entire game is styled after Sonic Advance, the arguably greatest sprite style in the entire series. Look, I love the classics, but come on. Where would early Newgrounds Flash animation be without these perfect pixels? Your main goal in this game is still to guide Sonic to the top of the level while racking up points and dodging enemies, but this game also has the added challenge of attempting to reach the goal with at least 50 rings, which nets you a Chaos Emerald Shard. Yeah, imagine that. Java Jump did Chaos Emerald Shards before Sonic Battle. I guess you're called a copy robot for a reason, my friend. Each world contains 3 Chaos Emerald Shards, 1 for each level, and I believe getting all of them unlocks this final world here, but for reasons I'll mention in a bit, I decided to forego that trial. To my utter bewilderment, this game actually has somewhat of a story to it, unlike the 2012 version that just has a few, granted very visually appealing, story scenes. It's about as basic as stories come. Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles realize Eggman is doing a bad thing, so they chase him to the ends of the Earth and then to space just to make him feel bad. There's also something about South America in there. It's kind of weird since they don't ever name drop any other real locations, but I mean, whatever, I can roll with it. The story also shows off these really nice character portraits that, to my knowledge, have never been used in anything else. My favorite thing about these is almost every single one makes the characters look fairly upset and or constipated. It's honestly a shame these are locked in 240p hell for the rest of eternity, because they'd make some really great reaction images. When jumping through the stages, you'll encounter self-explanatory things such as springs, rings, and badniks, but you'll also come across these hoops. Some simply grant you extra points, but others, if entered from below, will shoot Sonic upwards, greatly reducing the chances that the controls will mess up and throw Sonic into the unforgiving depths below. You're gonna want to figure these things out because later on in the game, they are absolutely mandatory. That's gotta be my one gripe with this game, though. I don't really know if it was an issue with the emulator or just the game, but every so often my controls would lock up, I'd die, and then I'd have to go all the way back to my last checkpoint. And this game has a live system, so getting a game over because of that stuff? Not exactly my favorite thing in the world. Other than that trivial problem, this game is actually really enjoyable, and I sat down and played through the entire thing while recording footage for this. In fact, I was originally only going to reference this version and then go on with the show, so to speak, but after experiencing it, I felt the need to share the good word of Java Jump while I was at it. It's not really that long, and it's not that challenging until the very end. It's just a very fun little time with some bumpin' tunes and fun level aesthetics. Now, after all that praise, how excited would you be if I said this game got a sequel? And how disappointed would you be if I said that sequel was not worth anything? Aww. Sonic Jump 2 came out in 2008 on the Sega mobile servers. Weird tidbit though, never came to Sonic Cafe. Not sure if that shut down before it was made, or maybe they just rebranded to Sega Mobile over there as well, but y'all didn't miss out on much if you didn't get it. Sonic Jump 2 is Sonic Jump, except they took the story out of it. Not gonna lie to you guys, I played this for 6 minutes and then gave up on it. And also, psych, you've been looking at Sonic Jump 1 footage again, and I bet you didn't even notice. The only thing that would have tipped me off is that the only version I could find was entirely in Portuguese, but it's not like it matters since we ain't seen constipated Eggman today. and the absolute best part about this copy and paste game was that IGN rated the original Jump a 5 and Jump 2 a 7, and frankly that concerns me, because 5 is only 0.2 points away from Sonic 06, and 7 is the exact same rating they gave Sonic Mania, so since they're pretty much the same, do we add both scores up? Is this actually the highest rated game in both recorded and unrecorded history? Gonna go with yes on that one, because imagine the fallout of Ocarina of Time getting dethroned by a cell phone game from 2005. And a Sonic game, no less. I, for one, welcome Total Anarchy. Jumping ahead to 2012, see what I did there? The version you're most likely familiar with hit virtual shelves, and I'm not surprised it did, since everyone and their grandma was hopping onto that mobile market bandwagon. This wasn't the first Sonic game to hit iOS and Android, but it was one of the first totally original ones, as most of the others were ports or altered versions of the console games. For example, Sonic 4 Episode 1 was actually pretty different from its console counterpart, but that didn't save it from being horrible regardless. Sorry, Sonic 4 fans, Mania retconned this train wreck for a reason. I played this game religiously back when it came out. Despite the gameplay being rather simple, there was enough packed into this thing with its 5 zones, level-up system complete with missions that ranged from fun to impossible, and of course, my favorite part of the entire ordeal, the multiple playable characters you could unlock. Unlike the original version, Sonic ain't romping around in his moon shoes alone this time. The likes of Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Rouge, Blaze, and even Silver get in on the action as well, all with their own unique playstyles, which I'll touch on in just a minute, because oh boy do I have a lot to say about that. So there actually is another reason I went more in depth with the original game aside from just enjoying it. Jump 2012 is actually a pseudo-remake of its Java brother. Each zone, aside from Cosmic Zone, has been lovingly recreated at a much higher res, and even the accompanying music has had a facelift. That being said, the levels are totally different, and the original story was replaced with some very basic dialogue-less scenes featuring some very nicely stylized art of our heroes basically watching Eggman fly around as if they were flying a kite at the park. There are 10 levels this time around instead of just 3, and on the 5th and 10th level of every zone, you'll fight Eggman to the death, and depending on what character you're playing as, that isn't actually a joke. The boss fights in Java Jump weren't anything special, but they at least channeled the spirit of the main series games by sticking Eggman in a crazy contraption that does next to nothing to stop the onslaught brought about by every woodland creature this side of the Mississippi. But in Jump 2012, we're treated to some very boring bosses that all look the same and are fought the exact same way. All you gotta do is wait until he's done attacking, dodge him when he flies upwards, and then you hit him, rinse and repeat 2 more times, and then Eggman goes home crying, wondering where he went wrong. Now these either can be incredibly easy, or you can make them so unnecessarily challenging that upon victory, nothing outside of strangling the life out of your phone could ever make you happy for the foreseeable future. This self-imposed challenge can be activated by simply picking someone that isn't Sonic or Blaze. Can't speak for Knuckles or Tails since I wasn't about to pay to unlock all of them. You can unlock them with just rings, but I wasn't going to spend weeks leveling up to be able to do that. But Rouge, Amy, and Silver? Definitely not worth spending money on. I figured that one out for you. Don't worry about it. Don't try it. Sonic's main ability is a double jump, which in a game like this is a godsend. It'll allow you to correct a bad jump, or take the fight to Eggman faster than people will run to defend Sonic Unleashed after someone says even something slightly negative about it. And from personal experience, I can tell you that is very fast. The other characters also have a double jump, but how they're executed and what happens afterwards is what makes them worse. For example, Amy flies upwards, swinging her hammer around for extra reach, but this comes at the cost of her being so slow. It's almost a guaranteed death sentence in boss fights. Meanwhile, Silver isn't quite as slow as Amy, but instead of landing as soon as his double jump concludes, he hovers in place for a moment so that you can further correct your jumps, or alternatively, allow Eggman to hit you for the 10th time, resulting in your immediate demise. Sure, working to unlock these guys is a reward in itself, but I just don't enjoy the handicaps that come from playing as them. There were also actually a couple unused things found within the game's code that never saw the light of day, including a couple fan-favorite characters, and Cosmic Zone, yet another returning location from Java Jump. Shadow, Cream, and Vector unfortunately had to take the bench for this one, but they most likely would have functioned somewhat similarly to Sonic and Tails, and I'm sure Vector would have had some dumb gimmick that made him unplayable. Probably would have had to collect a certain amount of crabs to finish levels that everyone else could have just jumped through normally. Yeah, surprise, I'm still salty about that. So all in all, Sonic Jump 2012 is a game that I had fond memories of, and still had a good time playing when I came to revisit it for this video. I even got something out of a game that I thought I'd never play in the form of Java Jump, and then was almost immediately let down by its sequel. Hold on, Jump 2012 had a sequel too, didn't it? Sonic Jump Fever, a 2014 iOS Android game and follow-up to the pretty decent Sonic Jump, is a huge disappointment, for me at least. Isn't it weird that the sequels to both good jump games turned out to be lazier cash grabs instead of legit follow-ups? Instead of being a one-time purchase like its predecessor, this is indeed a free-to-play game, and you know what that means. An energy system, random drops, mandatory waiting that can be bypassed by spending this radical in-game currency. It's the whole shebang. They also removed dedicated levels in favor of making the entire game solely about beating your friend's scores, removed a level that was available in the previous game, Rouge is gone, and Cream and Vector are still nowhere to be seen. But hey, at least we finally got the Chow Garden back, right? Yeah, it's water under the bridge, don't you worry about it.
There is no bridge left. The water has run dry. Sega is the word mercy even in your vocabulary.
Yeah, so the Chow Garden, that's the biggest addition, I'd say, besides Shadow, who I didn't even get to play as, since I only played this for like 20 minutes before getting bored. Compare that to the over 2 hours of footage I have for Sonic Jump 2012, and even the 50 minutes I have for Java Jump. The file sizes do not lie, folks. The worst part is I remember being so excited about this feature when the game released, but I quickly learned that it was weaponized nostalgia for the sake of microtransactions. Basically, if you spend some rings, you'll find a Chow Egg, which will then hatch into a wonderful friend, and would you look at that face? He doesn't know he's being used for evil, it's not his fault. And then comes the skeevy part. You can equip the Chow and use it to get some bonuses during gameplay, but it will leave you forever after a certain amount of time, unless you play with it enough that it takes a liking to you, thus remaining by your side for all of eternity. Probably, I don't know, you probably shut the game off by now. The rarer the Chow, the harder this is to do, and if you're finding it a little bit too difficult to get that specific Chow to stick around, just buy their friendship with some red rings. That's a great lesson to teach the kids, Sega. This game actually has some of the most evil tactics I've seen in one of these games, aside from that whole wheel thing in Sonic Runners. They hook you in with some adorable Chow art and a useful ability here and there, and then they force you to spend every waking moment to try and fill their loyalty meter before they leave. But you yourself are restricted by an energy meter. So if you really, really want that Chow to stay, maybe you'll just have to pay to have your energy refilled, and Sega will dump another Monster Energy drink down the Blue Blur's throat so we can keep going for a while longer. This one just hits me a bit harder than Jump 2, since I do remember making the jump from Jump 2012 to Jump Fever and playing Fever for a few days before calling it quits forever, or at least until a couple days ago when I started planning this. It could have been great, but they removed so much of what made the original game fun in favor of maximizing profit. At least the original's still up on the app stores, both Android and Apple, so you can just play that one and have a great time. I guess at this point, it's just a rule of thumb that you should stay away from mobile sequels, especially if the future has anything to say about it. Though Sonic Dash 2 could be the exception to that. It's actually a lot better than the first one, and no amount of Pac-Man or fan service can change my mind on that. And now, since this is a handheld Sonic Marathon, and I did talk about Sonic Jump in the past, I think it's only fair that I talk about Sonic Dash and Sonic Runners and all of their respective sequels and spin-offs now, no matter how disappointing they might be. An infinite runner game where you play as a character that is known to run for long distances. What a revolutionary idea. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you I was uninterested in this when it came out, because things like Temple Run were keeping me pretty occupied back then. You switch out copyright-free Indiana Jones for Sonic the Hedgehog and I'm sold! You can have my entire wallet even though it's free. What do I need it for? Food? Pfft. What do I need that for? Nothing. Sonic Dash was, and still is for that matter, a pretty simple infinite runner where you swipe side to side to avoid obstacles and collect things while you're trying to get as many points as possible. Occasionally you come to a gap in the road where you have to jump up and use the homing attack to cross to the other side. And then you might run into a spring where you can choose your next destination and also bank your rings so you can afford things later on in the game. Since I played this game last, there's been a substantial increase in content that I wasn't aware of, such as new bosses and crossover events that I did not get to take part in. They also added this little building mechanic where you use your rings and gemstones to help out the little critters in each zone, which will reward you with XP, rings, red rings, characters, and also just the ability to see this little champ right here. This fella? I would die for this fella. Look at him. Perfect. Like I mentioned a moment ago, there were a lot of crossover events as well that I wasn't aware of, such as Ye Olde Angry Birds, Movie Sonic and Longclaw, Hello Kitty, Tangle and Whisper, and Pac-Man. Like, that's probably the only one I really would have fought for if I knew this was going on, but alas, I can no longer unlock him, and that means I will have to stick with Silver, which is not the end of the world, but I'm telling you right now, I am going to cry about that later. Sonic Forces soon took the spotlight, but wait, no, not that Sonic Forces, it's the other Sonic. I'm talking about Speed Battle, because you see, in the Play Store and App Store. Now it's just called Sonic Forces. They removed the speed battle part from it, because I don't know if, like, maybe even Sonic Team doesn't want to talk about Sonic Forces anymore. I honestly think that's kind of hilarious. But you know, I agree with the name change, because I think I have more fun playing Sonic Forces Speed Battle than I do the real Sonic Forces. First step in this game is choosing your character from the sea of options at your disposal. At this point, most of the characters are synced between Sonic Dash and Sonic Forces, except all of the crossover stuff. But, I mean, even without those things, like, sure, no Pac-Man, but you can still play as, like, all these guys. Once you pick your champion, though, you're thrown into the ring with 3 other people, and your goal is to come in first, any means necessary. Though, I do notice that there are a lot of, like, animal plus adjective usernames in the game, so I'm thinking there's a lot of bots. But, you know, destroying those just means I'm doing my part to quell the robot rebellion. What have you been doing about it lately? Nothing? Just letting it happen? Each character has a set of offensive and defensive items at their disposal, and those get stronger as you level them up. The characters also have individual stats, but I gotta be honest, I just switch between Silver and Omega, and I really never lose a race, and that is not bragging, I'm just saying, please play with whoever you want to, I feel like you'll be fine either way. That being said, though, remember this is a mobile game, so it might take a really long time to get enough cards to unlock your favorite characters, or, you know, maybe it just costs some real-world currency, but, you know, I gotta be honest, this is not the most blatant use of microtransactions in a Sonic mobile game. We will get to that in just a second. I love this game. I think it's an amazing time waster, and I'm very glad I picked it up again for this video. I've been playing it since I actually recorded the footage for it, but, like, the one thing I wish it had was some kind of
single player
mode where maybe you could, like, just test all the tracks out, just, like, get more used to how the games and your characters work and the power-ups and stuff. Like, with online games, sometimes I get a little bored of the multiplayer experience because it's the same thing every time, and having a single-player mode would be a very nice addition. And that's actually exactly why I enjoyed this other game that we're about to talk about almost more than this. This next one's not really something that I need to talk about for too long, because odds are we all know about Sonic Runners by now. At the point of this game's release, Sonic Dash and Sonic Jump have been holding down the mobile game for it for a few years now. We have this new 2D runner game to get in the way of the 3D runner game's popularity. And you're gonna say, well, obviously, a 3D game is probably better than the 2D one. Well, I mean, now it's probably better, but, like, back then, no way, dude. No way, sir. Sonic Runners was the king. It was an infinite runner game, just like Sonic Dash, but this was the most insane celebration of Sonic's history that I had seen in such a long time. Like, the sheer amount of characters and buddies you could find in this game that reference not only all of Sonic's history, but also Sega's as a whole. Like, I couldn't believe it. Like, did you ever expect to see Mephiles again? Or what about the same Silver from Sonic 06, except he's, like, grown stronger, and, like, for some reason there was, like, a little, like, plot synopsis. Like, this guy is, like, he's there, look at him. It's the good boy. The game had an adventure mode with its own little story. It had crazy crossover events, and it also had the time attack and score attack modes that a lot of other games like this would have. Like, there it was. This was the perfect Sonic mobile game, except when it wasn't, because there were, you know, these little things in the game called microtransactions, except I wouldn't really call them microtransactions. I would call them, you better fork over some money right now to get more spins on the wheel, or else you're never getting the characters you want transactions. If you played the original Sonic Runners, you might remember the Wheel of Misfortune. Yeah, that's the thing you rolled when you wanted to get characters, but, you know, the character drop rates were so minuscule that, like, you just get buddies, and then you get the same buddies again, and they level up, which is nice, but also, hey, I really want to play as Styx the Badger or something, but I'm never gonna get to do that, because that's just how it'd be, I guess, I don't know. I feel like collectively, this thing only brought pain and suffering to the people playing the game, and then the game died because I guess it wasn't making enough money. And then it was revived, you know, not too long ago, and you can play it again, and everything's free, but the wheel is still there, you just can't pay for anything. So, now I feel like it might be even harder to get the characters you want, but at the end of the day, at least it is still alive, and you can still play it. So if you want to, be my guest. It'll be in the description. Okay, I'm not gonna mince words for this next part. Sonic Runners was then replaced with Sonic Runners Adventure a while down the road, and it is a downgrade in every single possible way. It's sort of like how Sonic Jump Fever was terrible compared to the regular Sonic Jump. Except in this case, you paid for Sonic Jump and it was better, and you don't pay for Sonic Jump Fever and that was worse. But Sonic Runners Adventure, you pay one quick payment of like, I don't know, $3.99 or something. I can't remember. I didn't pay for it again because I didn't want to play it. I didn't even record new footage for this because I did not want to pay for it again. But basically, it's Sonic Runners. If in like a lab, they removed every ounce of style and charm it had and put out like a store brand version of it. This game lacks the visual style. It lacks like 90% of the roster of the last game. I'm not good with fractions, but like, I mean, literally it went from like Big Mac to Little Mac. You can see the pictures right here. It's like not even a good comparison. Like, this is pathetic. They also removed a lot of the buddy characters, so there's like hardly any that you want to get anymore, and Chip is still there for some reason. I don't know why. But like, the only thing it really added was now there are some finite levels in addition to the infinite runner sections. And you think that would make it more fun, but instead it's just like, wow, I don't care about any of this at all, and I wish this hadn't happened. Just play Runner's Revival. That's the best I can give you. It's not actually strange to see the Hedgehog heading off to compete on his own, since there have actually been 2 other solo outings that precede this release by several years. First off, a game that shares its title with this one, we have Sonic at the Olympic Games, but much like what we talked about in the last video, this is a game for Java devices that uses Sonic Advanced sprites in new ways, and oh boy does it use them well. You're able to compete in 5 different events using primarily just one button, and they're fine. It's nothing I would really recommend though. Gotta give bonus points to 1500 meter dash though, because it gives us some huge Kirby air grind energy. We also have Sonic at the Winter Olympic Games for iOS, but Sega got cold feet and pulled it from the App Store. So I don't really have any footage of that, but we can assume it looked a little bit like this, except maybe with some 3D models and, yeah, snow or something. There were also some handheld versions of these games, but the only one that really ever stuck out to me was Winter Olympic Games for DS, because it had a story and a world to explore with NPCs, and it's almost a Mario and Sonic RPG. Please, I'm begging you. If you won't make a crossover platformer, just make an RPG! You have nothing to lose in the entire world to gain! And now we're in 2020, where things are terrible, but also not terrible, since I got Sonic on my phone and a new Paper Mario game just got announced, and I'm not sure if I should be crying tears of joy or sadness, since Paper Mario had a rough transition to 3D a while back and has never really been the same since. And yeah, of course, Sonic on my phone, that's why we're here. A sort of free-to-play game for Android and iOS featuring all your favorite characters, unless your favorites were the Mario characters, in which case, they are once again not here. I assumed in the older ones they took them out because Nintendo wasn't really in the mobile game market back then, but now, maybe it's just because they're not publishing it? I don't know, it kinda bums me out that they're not here, because the production value of this game is ridiculously high. This game is no simple minigame collection, by the way. Sonic at the Olympic Games 2020 features quite the lengthy campaign mode. No joke, I've actually got around 2 hours of footage, and I've only just reached the 3rd zone. Sure, that comes with replaying some events to win gold medals, but each one only lasts a couple seconds, except badminton. That one lasts too long. There is a story here as well, but much like the game's predecessors, the story is just about Eggman terrorizing the location holding the games, and Sonic traveling around to stop his henchmen. And Rouge and Espio, because they have gold medals. Honestly, it might not even be an evil scheme, they might just have won the games. I don't know, no one can be better than Sonic apparently. He'll rip those things from your cold, dead hands if he has to. Regardless of how in-depth the story goes, this is always my preferred way of playing games like this. Most minigame collections will favor gameplay over narrative, but for someone like me who gets bored playing multiplayer-centric stuff after a short time, the way they frame the content can really make or break the game. That being said, this isn't actually a multiplayer game, and I figured I'd get that out of the way first because I've heard a lot of people talking about it. The extent of the connectivity right now is sending people on your friends list a score challenge and seeing their scores after you finish story missions. This doesn't bother me per se because I prefer offline single-player content for the most part, but it does feel like something is missing here. This could also change in the future. The game is still relatively new at the time of posting this, so if that changes, then all the power to you, Sega. Throughout the story, you'll compete in 17 events and 9 special EX events that have small changes, but be warned, these are nowhere even close to the Dream events in terms of wow factor. I mean, do you remember that one time that Mario and Sonic fought perfect chaos while figure skating? This ain't that! I'm not saying the EX events are bad. In fact, I actually prefer some of them to their normal counterparts since they often add little extras that make the games more fun. For example, in shooting, usually you just slide your finger around the screen and release to fire at the flying discs, but in EX shooting, when you charge up your SP meter, the tech guys kick the disc shooters into maximum overdrive, and then you get this crazy multi-lock-on feature and you can hit all the discs on the field at the same time and get some massive points. To be honest, the EX events should have just been the default thing, because there's no real point to play the regular ones if the EX ones are exactly the same, except better. Thanks to these two modes coexisting, it actually makes the game feel a bit tedious, since typically you'll compete in the normal version of the event, and then you'll move on to the EX event. Most move pretty quickly, but again, if it's a certain event like, oh, I don't know, badminton, you're gonna be stuck swatting this dumb shuttlecock back and forth until your finger gets bored and leaves you to pursue greater things in life. Alright, now it's time for a relay race starring just me. I'm gonna run through every single event quickly and describe each one. Let's do it. First up, the dash courses. 100, 200, 300, and 400 meter dash all play the same. You hold the screen for a starting dash, and then mash your finger into the screen to run to the goal as fast as possible. Next, the 400 meter hurdles. It starts like the dashes, but your character will move on their own. Your job is to tap the screen when a hurdle impedes your progress, and know how long to hold it down to maximize your time on the course. This game gains this awesome bonus move where your character basically does a drop dash after jumping over a hurdle, and it creates this whole new challenge because your speed gets so crazy high. This is a serious contender for #1 minigame in my book. EX hurdles is the exact same thing, except they add springs to the mix. If you hit a star spring, it helps you along, but Eggman springs knock you backwards. Archery has you dragging your finger around the screen to aim at the target down the line. The closer to the center, the greater your score, and you'll also be awarded bonus points if you let your reticle shrink to its smallest size. EX Archery adds an SP shot that takes the arch out of archery and allows you to shoot straight where your reticle's pointing. I've got a love-hate relationship with this one. Occasionally it's fun, but when the wind kicks up and the target starts moving around, it just gets tedious. Climbing has you flinging your character up a rock wall that they'll automatically latch onto if they come within range of a peg. You need to watch your stamina bar and refill on special pegs or else you'll fall. EX climbing adds a special super jump that can help you cross huge chunks of the wall quickly, and it's really fun to go back and try to beat your old times. Biking is fun, but also sort of awkward. Any game that requires you to drag your finger to do something, in my opinion, just doesn't feel perfect, but here it's very evident. You drag your finger across the screen to steer yourself, and then you have to go off ramps and do tricks and collect rings to try and be the first one to the goal. Unlike most events, rings in this one are not used for extra points, they're used to fill up your ring gauge so you can do a ring dash and get farther down the course in a shorter amount of time. Biking EX adds SP tricks, which don't really do much, and mud? You don't see me call my backyard my EX backyard because the landscaping guys did a bad job recently, do ya? In diving, you angle your jump, and then you try to grab as many rings as possible before swiping downwards to complete the dive. You gain an air jump to help grab more rings, and the EX version is pretty much just the same, only harder. It's in games like this where you can really notice the detail they put into this game. Like, for example, after your first jump, your character looks different than they did when they started because they were in the water, so they're not dry anymore. I think that's just kinda neat. Fencing is almost annoying, but it's just fun enough that it's not. Swiping back and forth lets you do a short hop in either direction, and swiping and holding lets you inch forward or backwards slowly. You're then able to jab at your opponents if you've got the stamina for it, or do some sick jump stabs. Sonic is ever fearful that his giant eyeball will be sliced from its socket, so he'll blind everyone else in self-defense before that happens. You can also rack up SP to zip right to your foes and give them a quick jab. Hammer throw is a mixed bag. Of hammers, I guess. You tap the screen really fast to build power and then release it at the perfect moment for it to fly as far as possible. In EX mode, you get multiple hammers with different point modifiers, and you'll get extra points depending on where it lands on the field. So instead of focusing on throwing it perfectly, you might want to change your trajectory a little bit to score the biggest amount of points. Karate is really entertaining. You just beat up your friends, like savagely. Punch, kick, and grab to earn points, and first to 100 is the victor. If you perform an SP attack when your buddy is stunned, you get huge big boy points. Shooting is my absolute favorite. Contrary to what I said earlier about dragging the screen feeling awkward, here it works perfectly. All you need to do is shoot the discs that get launched and try not to miss. EX, of course, adds that multi-shot that I mentioned before, and some egg flyers to net you bonuses. Getting to the end now, we've got Trampoline, which is just that interlude from Sonic Dash where you hit the springs and have to slide your finger in different directions to do tricks. It is literally nothing. And finally, we have Badminton, which in my opinion is badminton. I'm sure you all saw that joke coming from a mile away. Thankfully, your character moves to the shuttlecock on their own, but your responsibility is sliding your finger on screen to return it to your opponent. There are a few different shots you can do depending on how you slide your finger, but what it boils down to is waiting for your opponent to mess up so you can spike them with these purple shots. EX mode adds a special you win shot, but that really doesn't stop it from going on for way too long with little enjoyment to be had. Maybe if you didn't have to make it to 7 or 8 points, it would be a little bit better, maybe like 4. It is just a slog every single time. This is really the only game I dread playing in this thing though, so I'd say 1 out of 17 ain't bad at all. There are also 3 other games I haven't played yet, table tennis, javelin throw, and long jump, but they're all self-explanatory and I'll get there eventually. See, this game, in my opinion, is best played in short bursts, so forcing longer playthroughs for the sake of this video is going to make me enjoy it less, and I really don't want that to be the case because I'm having a really good time with this so far. That should be a no-brainer though, right? Mobile games, short bursts, usually that's something built into these games since they usually have these free-to-play mechanics like energy meters. Despite this game being free-to-play, none of that is actually in sight, though there is a paywall after the first 11 levels, so it's more like a free-to-start game. When that popped up, I dropped $4.99, and so far I haven't hit anything else that I need to pay for. Also, if you do pay for it, you can give your friends these demo pass things, which lets them bypass that paywall, but I don't know for how long. I've never seen an app do that before, but if you've got friends, spread the love with some Olympic Games, and then crush their scores and hopes in one fell swoop.
You are the best trampoline man, and they shan't soon forget it.
But now that I think about it, shouldn't someone like Tails be better at trampoline than Sonic? You could always just switch to another character and see how that theory plays out. Yep, all alone as usual. Yeah, this is my least favorite part of this game. There are plenty of characters to play as, but the first time you play a story mission, you're required to play as Sonic. Sonic also receives all the SP abilities automatically, so playing as any other character is pretty much detrimental to your success. Sure, you can just use the materials that you get for winning Olympic events to purchase moves for your favorite characters, but what's the point? I already beat these events and got the gold, and with no real multiplayer to speak of, you might as well just use Sonic. It's funny that that was my conclusion for both Sonic Jump and this as well, but I don't know, the games don't lie, man. Sonic can also be used in every single event, whereas we're still restricting the other characters to specific events. Heck, Zavik can only be used in Hammer Throw. Sorry to disappoint you, Zavik fans. Oh yeah, I forgot there aren't any. Well, I guess there's no one to be disappointed then. Isn't it great how things work out like that? And now to end on a high note, there are a few little micro games found within the story. I doubt I've seen them all, but there's this memory game that I somehow did in one try despite the fact that I can't remember what I ate this morning for breakfast. There's a crane game that is surprisingly just as rigged as crane games in the real world, and of course, when I made a Sonic Jump video 2 weeks ago, I swear I had no idea this was coming, but what a nice little tribute. Instead of using gyro controls to control Sonic, you instead swipe on the screen, which I don't like as much, but in essence, it's Sonic Jump. And Sonic is nice enough to just disable the motobugs instead of destroying them. On a personal level, I appreciate that a great deal. And that's basically it for Sonic at the 2020 Olympic Games. Should you check it out? Absolutely. Should you buy the full game? Also absolutely. This thing is so much more than I was expecting. Whenever I see a mobile game release, I'm always deterred from checking it out because I just don't play games on my phone, but these days, I've been eating my words a lot. Rockman X Dive, Crash Bandicoot Mobile, Sonic at the Olympic Games, and heck, even Raid. I'm having so much more fun than I ever thought I would, and I can do it from the comfort of anywhere in the world. Oh, did you think I was gonna green screen myself into some wacky location after that? Nah, this is my favorite place to be. I ain't hard to please.